Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything movies, TV, comics, and entertainment. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to an all-new edition of FANLIGHT Zone Presents. My name is Ken M. You know me as the host of the ODPH podcast. I'm also the editor-chief here at FLZ. To my left, you're right at home. He's one of our featured editors here in the comics department, but you also know him as the host of 607 TWS, The Wrestling Show. Please give a warm welcome to Rich.
What is up, everybody? It is always a great day when we get to talk comics, and it's always a great day when we get to talk to some awesome creators.
Absolutely. And if you are a fan of fantasy books in the late 90s, this character and series was on your radar because Kildare's experiences traveling through the underworld is one that really jumped out. And the pages of ARIA from Avalon Studios were one that dominated the comic shops at the time. And now it is coming back in a Kickstarter campaign that you cannot miss. We can talk about it, but we have somebody on the line that can definitely talk about it. You know his work from such books as Spawn, 9 Rings of the Wu-Tang, M. Rex, and he's also the co-creator of Witchblade, and he's also going to be right behind here with the ARIA omnibus. So please give him a warm welcome to Brian HABERLIN. Brian, what is going on?
Hey, everybody. Working myself to the bone.
Yeah. I can hear that. I understand that.
We can definitely hear that.
That's what I'm doing. I'm working myself. I'm making comics. Dag nabbit. Making
That's
comics
awesome.
and we actually did this week actually, because it's funny when you do a bunch of creations. So, over the years I've had, it's funny because I did the math from when I started Anomaly, which was the most recent company in 2010. And so from 2010 to, it wasn't even 2010, it was, 2012 to 20, so 10 years, I did 2,759 pages of interiors.
Wow.
So that's Hellcops, Sonata, The Marked, all these image series, Faster Than Light, Anomaly, Shifter, all this stuff. And it's just it's so fun to just keep creating these things, and keep coming out with new stuff, But I've done a lot of, as you can kind of always post up to the side, because I was blessed in coming into comics. I mean, I don't know if I can just ramble, or if you guys have something you want to start.
No, by all means.
So when I was 18, I had my first job offer to pencil at Marvel. From Jim Shooter and John Romita Sr. at San Diego Comic-Con when it was still in the old convention center, because I'm old. But back then there was no internet. There was no other. You had to move to New York. I was a Southern California boy, and it was like, it's $35 a page, and we don't guarantee you work. And it's like, okay, I think I'm going to film school instead.
Yeah, reasonable sense, yeah.
So I have a master's degree in screenwriting from Loyola and communications, but and then my first jobs were working in television at Lorimar Television, which was the king of television back in the day. Worked on Family Matters, Perfect Strangers, Knots Landing,
Wow.
Dozens of shows, and then Warner Brothers bought us, and we became Warner Brothers, and that was Current Programs. But every year I kept thinking, my love is not, what I discovered was my love was not being a television executive. That's not what I wanted to do. And so I'd go down San Diego Comic-Con, portfolio in hand, and get rejected like everybody else, and I was developing all these new computer techniques to do comics and stuff, coloring techniques and things like that. And then it was 93 that a buddy of mine, Rod Underhill, said, hey, I'm going to have a booth in the small press area. You want to join me? It's like, great. And I had a CRT monitor that was this wide and about that deep and probably weighed about 150 pounds that had a CG animated Spawn on it playing. And I had a big inkjet print of Green Lantern that I 3D modeled the power battery behind him and 3D modeled wings behind him, and everybody and their mother offered me work. So I couldn't get any work the year before. And then I went with Mark Silvestri at the start of Top Cow, which was Top Cow could all fit in one car at that point.
Oh, wow.
And we were down in San Diego, in Mira Mesa, inland San Diego. in an open floor plan space with Wildstorm. We were together, and Wills. We were together, and you could walk around. And if you weren't a dick, you could sit behind Scott Williams while he was inking and learn from Scott Williams. You could have all these kids that were like trying to beat everybody else. So you had the brand new kids on the block who showed up. Were like, we had Jeff Campbell over on the one side. You had Joe Benitez. You had Dave Finch. You had Travis Cheris. You had, Mark Silvestri, Jim Lee, and Wills. Don't forget about those slouches. I can't think of another place where you could have learned as much as I learned about comics in that time. And everybody was out to, I always tell my students, because I've been teaching for 25 years at Minneapolis College of Art and Design, too, comics. And, you get sometimes artists will go, oh, no, it's not about competition. It's not about what they're saying. No, it's absolutely about competition. And you want that competition to be so good, it drives you better. Mm-hmm. It's like whenever you think of those great periods of time, depending on what sport you're in, it's like, the old days, in boxing, where you had Sugar Ray and you had Thomas Hitman Hearns and you had Duran and those guys were all like, wow, how they can get better and better and better. And then tennis, you had like Bjorn Borg, McEnroe, Connors, you had these guys that kept trying. And that's what pushes you. I still remember there was an issue when Mark made a big jump, and it was Cyberforce #5. And I brought it up because as I post my pages, I have my layouts up there first, and then I'll put up my finished inks and eventually my finished colors, right? And that was something I learned from back in the Top Cow days. And Mark would put up, okay, here's the layout, and then he put up the pencils, and Dave Wall, who was editor-in-chief back then, would take those down, Xerox them, get it off to Scott Williams on the other side of the thing, and they would keep getting added up. And there's a Cyberforce 5, and I still remember that Mark, when he finished the book, he had like a Hawaii vacation with his girlfriend to go to. It's like, great, we're gonna go and da-da-da. And my computer workstation was like just right off from where his open office was, right? So his art table was right there. The wall with the things was right over there. And I remember one night when I was working late, Jim Lee walked into the office after Mark had gone, and he's looking at the pages, and he goes, if you could read my lips there. But again, it's one of those things that keeps like getting you, and the other thing I tell artists too is like, as long as you keep your passion stuff, it's like, if I was a professional athlete in any way, shape, or form, my career would have been over decades ago. It's like, I, knock on wood, kind of keep getting a little bit better. I can kick my ass from when I was a 20-year-old artist. I can kick my ass from when I was a 30-year. I can kick my ass from a 40. I can kick my ass from when I was a 50-year-old artist. So, that's also the kind of the cool thing about it. But anyway, that's me blabbering.
No, by all means, because you hear the story behind this, because your work speaks for itself, especially for what you dabbled in with Witchblade and how it rolled at Avalon Studios, and that's how we get to ARIA. And the story goes there because at the time when it came out, it was one of the top books in the country. That's fans might not unless you were reading at that time, you might not understand like how big this book was. And to have that run too in comics, and now to come back to the Kickstarter for it in the omnibus, how did that whole process come to be?
Well, it was pretty much about time. We did our first Kickstarter. It's funny because I had to kind of wrap my head around Kickstarter a few years ago, where I was like, it's like I'm asking people for money. I'm begging for money. It's like, I'm also a real publisher. It's like, and then it kind of the flip to that was that no, real this is legitimately a way to raise money for a real business and all that kind of stuff. I recently had an issue that I haven't been able to flip him around because we were talking about doing some new 9 Rings of the Wu-Tang with RZA, and RZA is against Kickstarter.
Really?
Yeah, he feels like I used to feel.
Okay.
He feels that, I got money. I don't need to, why should I need to do that? It's like, well, then cough up the money and we'll produce the thing. Anyway.
Fair point. Yeah.
You got a point.
But that's neither here nor there. But no, it just, we started our first one. We did the Stone, which was my other Avalon titles with Wills. We did the Kickstarter for the omnibus there, and that went well. And then last year we did my art book of my watercolors and my oil paintings, and that went well. And it just became, time, since we know it's kind of working and we know, let's pull the jewel out, which is ARIA, and get that going. It's never been collected with all the stuff that we have. Over 600 pages. We actually have, I just handed over to Jay the 3-pager of new original short that he's going to do. So the idea is that we're going to have 3 of the original artists do 3 little short new ones, which are basically, the notion is revolving around because Kildare has the curiosity shop, the magic shop as well. And so each 3 of these little vignettes are going to be closing time.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens with, all of a sudden, the guy gets his foot in the door, it's like, I want a refund. And then what's that little short vignette story? And that's going to have Royal and Martinez, who was one of the original artists on the book, and Lam Medina. We got 2 between Jay and Lam Medina. We got 2 Eisner winning artists there. So that's pretty good.
Absolutely.
And so it's going to have new material in there that's never seen the light of day, and stuff that's very rare, I think, too. It's like when you start looking at the stuff, it's like all the different, from all the comments. My dear friend Mike Turner did that for us back when he was alive.
Amazing work, yeah.
One of the sweetest guys and most talented guys in the industry you would ever want to meet. All the stuff, just a little prose book that has beautiful writing by Brian Holguin in it. Aria, more Aria, more Aria, more Aria. And then all the fancy stuff we're doing. The tiers on this thing are going to be mind blowing. We have, so we have like hollow.
Oh wow!
Cards.
Hollow cards. This
Super
is very
limited.
nice.
That'll be going out. Hollow card. I've been a 3D modeler animator since the Amiga days, which is a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of 3D stuff. So we will be having,
Wow. The work is just impressive here.
These will have, again, based off the first cover, skulls.
For anybody that's hearing this in podcast form, you definitely have to check the YouTube version out to just see the intense detail involved with these.
Yeah, and then we have, even, some original art tiers that we're going to be doing. This is actually one of the reveals of one of Jay's new pieces for the short story that we have in there.
Amazing.
Probably shouldn't have it in a plastic screen for this stuff.
But it's all right, because it just kind of teases enough to the audience that you definitely want to make sure you're clicking on the link to the Kickstarter to get the book.
Jay is doing 4 sketch cards too for it, and his sketch cards are not like anyone else's sketch cards. They're not sketches. They're these mind-blowing, detailed, beautiful things. We have here I got a little. So when Brian Holguin, so it was Brian Holguin and myself who first came up with the notion for ARIA. So 1998, us sitting across the way from, probably back then, Top Cow was on the promenade in Santa Monica, which is like a nice kind of shopping area and stuff. So there are restaurants and stuff. And Brian came down and we were talking about, things we wanted to do and stuff. And we thought, what? I'd love to do our Doctor Strange. Can we do our Doctor Strange? Let's figure out our Doctor Strange, And this is actually the very first character sketch of Kildare and the Pug.
Oh, wow.
From 1998, when Kildare was a guy and not a woman. And Pug was a little bit more sort of heavy metal with
yeah, I was going to say
kind of thing. And then we went around for trying different artists to do it, because my chops weren't ready to do something like that back then. And also we'd launched. So basically, ARIA came out under Avalon,
right,
which was after I left Top Cow, Wills and my comic studio, Wills Portasio. And so we had Hellcop, Stone, ARIA, and The Wicked were our first 4 titles. And ARIA. So it was finding the right artist for ARIA. And I remember when we first saw Jay's stuff, it was like, okay. But we tried other people. There were other people involved that, almost had the gig but didn't. At one point, Buzz was in the mix, if you know
Really?
that artist from back in the day.
Mhm.
And a couple others, but Jay was our guy.
And the rest is history.
So we went, and I hate to say it, was like it was a little easier back then, because as opposed to back then, it was Wizard ruled the comic industry, Wizard magazine.
Oh yeah.
And you had the one distributor in Diamond, and so basically back then, all you needed to do is have good double page spread in Diamond and a good ad in Wizard.
And definitely created the buzz.
You definitely didn't have to do running around and trying everything you possibly can. Different days, but yeah. But anyway, it was a surprise big smash hit, so it did great. And then Jay found out he really wasn't a guy who could do monthly art, of course.
But it's better to find out then, and then you kind of just work around that skills, because when the artwork just jumps out,
right?
I mean, you want to make sure you adapt.
Have, again, this is one of Lam Medina's watercolors.
Amazing stuff.
Again, Eisner Weird. He was one of he was the starting artist on Fables as well. That's where he got his Eisner from the beginning of that series. But yeah, so it was about time to put it together. She actually appeared. I had Kildare and the Pug were in my marked series for 2 issues.
Yeah.
And so those 2 issues are going to be in here. And one of the characters in the short that I'm doing with Jay is from that run as well.
Cool. That's super cool.
Yeah.
So getting to the story, so for anybody who might not be familiar, can you throw like the elevator pitch of ARIA? What should they expect if they've never heard of the book?
Kildare is basically, okay, so I'll jump back first. So at one point, the fairy, the elves, all that stuff, that was all here. That all really exists. All the magic stuff that we have from our legend, that was all real. But then humans started to breed like rats and did human shit that we do and kind of dicks. And the fantasy world was basically at a certain point, like, listen, we either got to take them all out or we've got to do something else and bifurcate. And what they did is they separated their world from ours. Okay. And Kildare is actually a fairy princess, though if you make her go to fairy, the first thing she's going to do is put on her shades and pull out a cigarette, and because she doesn't want to be get away from me, the little glowing things flying around. And she is a New York woman.
Yep.
She loves Manhattan. She loves that stuff. And her job, essentially, when she does it, is to, if something kind of leaks over from the magic world that shouldn't be here, she has to deal with that, put it back in its place, and vice versa. Things trying to go over the other way. So she's kind of like the cop between the worlds, so to speak. Though if I ever said that to her face, she'd probably slap me. She is full of attitude. But was really the most wonderful thing about it, I think, too, is the way Brian, especially wrote her, Brian Hogan, not talking about me in the third person, was also shining a light on humanity. Because like in those, I don't know if you guys ever saw like when Christopher Eccleston took over Doctor Who. Yeah. Where there were always that light of like, oh my God, he's this immortal doctor, but then he'll like go, but you're humans. You don't understand what and she would always shine that light back on us too, how special humans are and existing in these short periods of time and what we've been able to do and So you get that also that fun, kind of insight into our world from a third party who, frankly, I think she would love to be human at a certain point, but she's this immortal, but she gets as much fun as she possibly can, clubbing at night in New York and doing all that stuff, but also the tragedy in that she is immortal and, she's gone through quite a few lovers. I mean, that's a little bit of the Highlander kind of sadness, right? So there's a lot of levels to her character. She comes across hard as nails, tough New York, Manhattan woman, but underneath, there's a lot of baggage and a lot of stories to reveal and tell.
And that's all going to be packaged together in this book too. And that's like I say, if anybody is not familiar with this book, like we can't stress enough about picking this up. But especially for you as a creator, dabble in the the magical underworld here that is ARIA's. What is it about the magic format and fantasy that really draws you as a creator to really want to get into this?
Well, I always, in almost every story I've told, whether it's Hellcop, The Marked, or Sonata or whatever, they're always like stories that at their core, but they always then have some fantastical element, and that fantastical element could derive from sci-fi. In the case of Faster Than Light and Hellcop, or can come from some sort of magical thing. And they also the thing that Brian Holguin also brought to it, which is a little different from how I approach a lot of fantasy stuff, is he was really into the sort of urban fantasy, sort of like realistic sort of, is that really magic or is something else happening there? Which I think again elevated it beyond what a lot of, she's not in a metal bikini wielding a sword, though I think there is a cover where she's in a metal bikini of some kind. Anyway, but there's those kind of levels. So you get to tell, again, I think the idea is that it elevates the story a little bit. So you start with a good grounded story, and then by having some sort of fantastical element in it, you take it in a place that it hasn't gone before. Mm-hmm. It's like when I I'll teach, I usually do like 2 or 3 teaching panels at San Diego Comic-Con. And whenever I do the one on like creating a comic book, when I talk about the story, it's like, so you got to have your story, and you have to have your linear part of the story. So you have Jack and Jill went up the hill, fetch a pail of water. Jack and Jill came down. So now what's the most interesting way to tell that story? Is the more interesting way to tell it from the point of view of that squirrel that's in the tree above the well, who freaking hates Jack and Jill, and is the result of why they came tumbling down the hill at the end of the day. Is that the way you tell that story? So it's like getting the basic A, B, C, and then, okay, now what's more interesting? It's like, or do we start with Jack, close up the camera, head to the side, blood coming out his mouth, and then we tell the story from how did he get here, kind of thing, So, and then adding the fantastic element on top of that gives you into another realm of possibilities,
Absolutely.
So
of course, I hate straight drama.
Yeah, we got to mix it up. I mean, that's the thing.
You got to throw stuff up there. You got to mix it up a little bit. As you mentioned, Kildare is a fairy that lives amongst the mortals. Break down the challenges of working on a character that's obviously so complex from the creator standpoint.
Well, I mean, what you almost have to, at a certain point, limit yourself, because you can't have her throw on like all this stuff from this, that, and the other thing. You have to really kind of focus. This story and every theme has to go kind of around that theme. So you focus in like we have the first one is one of those sort of obvious gimmies where it's like someone is killing the immortals. Okay, how do you kill an immortal? Yeah. And then why is someone going around killing the immortals? Who could possibly even do this? So you have those kind of great little storylines, and then you have the fun elements around it. Like there's a great, one of my favorite scenes in I'm always into like the little moments in storytelling. Yeah. Like there's a great little scene where Pug, after a night of drinking with Kildare, is relieving himself in an alleyway, and there's an old poster on the wall for a Mozart concert with Mozart music, and but it had a big picture of Mozart. It's like, oh, I remember him. Yeah, he was a funny guy, and stuff. And Kildare goes, yeah, it was a few hundred years ago. Okay, yeah. But you have those great elements. That's always one of my favorite things. That is that sort of linking into actual history. For a moment, could you think, oh, maybe these characters really did exist? And their point of views on these historical characters. Sometimes because we have John Lennon in that in the Summer Spell story. you know, the Beatles and stuff. So that was a 60s. So we did the 60s story. That was Mark Parillo did the art on that one. So we get to jump. I mean, that's also what I like about a character that has existed for so long. We could tell a Western story with her if we wanted to. You know, we could tell, you know, you could tell all these kind of fun stories. You know, even I haven't done it, but, you know, I guess we could tell a future story where she's on some stupid space station, you know, right? You know?
I mean, the playbook's wide open. Yeah.
And I really like that a lot. You know, that was one of the whole ideas when we started Witchblade, was that, you know, this is the eternal champion's weapon. You know, this has been around for a really, really, really long time. So we can tell stories of who had it in the Old West, who had it in the 1800s, you know, who had it, you know, and it just, you can go keep telling stories, you know.
It's so much creative freedom. I mean, that's the beauty of that, like in going into that format, because if you have an immortal character or deal with that topic, you can really cover any ground that you really gravitate towards as a creator. And that really opens up a lot of doors. And I think when fans are picking up this book, they're going to see a lot of that in here. And especially in dealing with Kickstarter too. You know, for you as a creator, what has been like the biggest pro and con about using this as a format?
All the prep work you really have to do it right.
Oh, completely.
That's pretty much it. You know, again, I what we're kind of trying to do with it now is more make it, you know, as a functional building part of our business. You know, and so planning on doing more Kickstarters during the year, but each Kickstarter sort of building on the last one. And, you know, we're very good at producing high quality stuff because we've been doing that for decades. And we're also very good at getting it out on time to people, or even having it done, like my watercolor and oil book. We printed that before the Kickstarter was done. People got their special stuff in that like a month after the Kickstarter ended.
Wow.
You know, and I think that's really, really, really important, is delivering as soon as you possibly can and on time. And since we're a little different than most creators that do this, is that I've been a publisher for so many years as well, and had so many of my things published. We know how to do all that stuff. We know how to deal with printers. We know how to deal with, you know, all that kind of stuff. So we can get all those, just as soon as we need to press the button, and it goes out, you know. I mean, because you do things like you source things out, like, you know, a buddy of mine, Jay Photos. I don't know if you know his work. He does a lot of indie kind of horror books. 68. What was one like? So he just came out with, and it's one of those things too, when you have the group of people that you've known for so long and stuff, and they help each other. You know, he had like his, you know, this is his 68 book. You know, it's got nice spot varnish on it. You know, the reading ribbon. This is over a 600-page book too. It's like, you know, all right, you know, because we already had our printers, but we were always looking for other people. I can tell you who did this and stuff, and it comes with this dust jacket. Again, it's got the spot varnish on it, all that kind of nice stuff. And their printer kicked my printer's prices. It's like, okay, great.
Yeah.
But it's like, but that's also part of it, is that you've been doing this long enough that you have a group of people that you can just knock on their door. Like I could knock on the door of, you know, anyone at Top Cow and say, so you just finished that big Kickstarter, you did that. So what did you think of those guys you used for Film It or whatever, you know? So
no, that definitely helps.
When you're old like me, you can, you know, call up, you know, all these other old creators that, and again, the master of it all is freaking Brian Polito.
Oh yes.
It's always good to have the connections to get it done. Especially
if I'm not sure about something about Kickstarter, I'll ask Brian. Brian will absolutely know. I mean, again, I always say Brian's the hardest working man in all of comics.
Yeah, and to have him on speed dial, that's amazing too. It's like I say, because how fast that market evolves, you know, to have that knowledge and then to apply to what you have coming out, and especially like you touched upon too, getting product to the audience on time.
Yeah,
that I always think that's probably the most vital thing of any campaign. It
blows me away, guys that have had successful Kickstarters, you know, or whatever, and just what do you mean you never got their book? Yeah, you're going to do a really good next Kickstarter.
Exactly.
It's like, what are you thinking? I don't understand. I don't understand. I mean, I understand to a certain degree because,
Sure,
you know, having been, you know, on the editorial side of this business too, knowing that most comic book artists are kind of flaky. Anyway, yeah. So I could see, you know, when all of a sudden, oh, what do you mean I have to actually do the whole thing now and get it out? I know how to pencil. I don't know. What do you mean?
yeah.
Pretty much.
You mean the guy who's lettering this for me wants to get paid? Oh, jeez, man.
Always with the money. Somebody always wants money. I don't know. Who does this? Speaking of money for something, though, like obviously a lot of value with the Kickstarter, a lot of things are going in. So when you're watching, hopefully when people are watching this, they're going to go over because we're putting out a little early. Make sure they're clicking on it so they get notified when it goes live and they start buying this up amazing because there's a lot of amazing stuff. But
and people who sign up early are going to get in a little option to get some stuff that no one else can get. So get notified.
There you go. Get there early.
I was going to say you have the incentive right there, folks.
There it is.
Yeah, we got the sign up right now. You know, there's going to be, again, original watercolor sketch cards by me. There's going to be the original sketch cards by Jay. We're going to be doing, because we have, you know, again, I have from back pull out storage, I have all the old rare comics from the initial run.
Wow.
And these are going to be going into, we're going to be kind of doing a little blind bag thing in one of the tiers.
Very cool.
Have fancy stuff that could then, you know, you could actually get one of the J. Anacleto original pieces, or you could get, you know, get the hollow cards that I was showing you, and or a sculpt, or all kinds of. It's if I was a collector, I would really be into this one, especially for, and not just for the book, but for the tiers.
Well, I mean, it's the perfect combination because you have to, you know, obviously you got to sell the story and what's behind it, but also to give that little extra incentive. Like that's the key piece.
There you go. And to get on early, you even get more incentive. So there you go. Don't wait. There's no reason to wait. Watch as soon as you're done watching, click that link that's in the liner notes and make sure you get over and do it.
Please, and please and thank you. You know, it's like I don't take any of this stuff for granted. I am so appreciative. You know, I was, you know, one of the awesome parts about being a comic book artist and comic creator, you know, is like I was at the last show I was at the OAX festival in Florida, and I was drawing and doing some things for it, and the ability to do like a little sketch and hand it to someone and have them be so happy.
Yeah,
the ability to make somebody happy, that's the coolest part about doing what I do. You know, it's just like, oh my God, it's like I could, cool. You know, and again, I can do the same thing with the publishing stuff too. You know, it's just like, here, my goal is, again, to make everyone who backs this and gets this go, that was really cool. That was one of the coolest, best Kickstarters I've ever gotten. You know, quality wise, content wise, the whole 9 yards. You know?
Yeah, that's just awesome. Just the all that going in, but where it's kind of great here is that you are somebody who has been just a very big driving force in independent comics, done a lot, obviously worn many hats in independent comics, and as somebody who really enjoys the indies as well as Ken here, and a lot of the people watching. Like right now, we're having a gigantic boom in indie comics, and you know you can say Kickstarter is part of that because obviously it's a new way, or not even a new way. It's been a way up for a while, but it's really taking shape as being a way to get a lot of things out to people. Plus, obviously, more indie publishers, I think, now than possibly ever. Like, what is from somebody like you who is really, I don't want to say pioneer because indie comics have been around for a while, but in the form that it is now, definitely have pioneered it in a way. How do you feel about the way the indie comics are going right now in the year 2026?
You know, I tell people it's right now is the time, you know, and I've been preaching this for a while, that you know, 'cause you got to do your own stuff. You know, that has always paid dividends for me. You know, old properties getting optioned to Hollywood or whatever, or you know, extra money, you know, because you have to think all about it as a business. You have to think about, you know, as you get older too, is like, I want things that are going to eventually, you know, maybe keep paying me in some way, shape, or form, or whatever. I mean, not thinking about it Machiavellian, I still
Right.
the thing is like, this is what I want to do, and I wouldn't do a comic that's like, oh, you know, I think that's going to be a hit. I'm going to do that. I don't really want to do it, but I'm never going to do that. But I think there is something to creating your own thing, and I think too with the avenues that you have now to build an audience, that you have them in from the ground floor. It's like, okay, I'm starting this thing, and it's going to start with nothing. You know, it's like you don't expect that you're going to get a bunch of followers. You know, it's going to be at least a year before you start seeing any traction. But you've got to be ready to put in that year. You know, and I also tell young artists and creators quite often, it's like, you know, you'll get these guys coming out of like art school or whatever, and jumping into a game company, or jumping on, and they're doing textures all day for the game company, or they're doing whatever all day for the thing. And when they get home, they can't work on their own art. They're too tired from putting that stuff. So I tell people, it's like, get an office job. Get something that's going to pay you some medical, you know, and get that boring ass job. Because then when you go home, guess what you're going to do? You're going to work on your writing. You're going to work on your art and stuff, and you'll have the energy still to do that, you know. And then, you know, something's going to come or something's not going to come from it. But even like what I was saying to you guys before, it's like, there's no way I could do what I'm doing now in my 20s.
Yeah.
You know, you get better, you know, and if you can keep the passion for the thing and have something that's going to cover your nut, you know, and so you can have you're not being a starving artist is overrated. You don't want to be a starving artist. Fine. I mean, get a postal job, get whatever you're going to get, you know, and that will enable you to really do this stuff, and it will really drive you to do this stuff. The only problem that we have, so there's two things, right? So by going that way and having your Instagram, your TikTok, your YouTube, and you're sharing like design stuff, you're sharing the books, you're sharing all the stuff that you're doing and building, and then doing, you know, like right now, you know, it's like you can get printers that will do holograph. You can do your own little merch stuff that then you can take to shows, you know, like all the things that I was just showing, the sculpts and stuff. I do all this in-house, you know, and it's not, 10 years ago it was pricey to do. Now it's not, you know, you just have to have the skill set to be able to do this stuff, but then you are your own full manufacturer as well, you know. And I was even telling people, you know, like, you know, Amazon, direct publishing, you know, let's say you don't have money to really, well, you don't want to print, let's say if you're a real indie creator, right? And you're going to shows and you're an Artist Alley vet essentially, you know, and you got your book. If you went somewhere and it's like, okay, I'm going to go to a printer and print, it's going to be a minimum, you know, of 100 or more issues, and it's going to be expensive at that point, right? But it's also, you're doing something else for your dog, and your wife's going to be all pissed off with the boxes of books that you keep having in the garage piling up of your old inventory. Amazon Direct, you can publish straight from them, right? And they'll print on demand, but you can also then go to Amazon Direct, and then they're so much better quality than they used to be, and you could do fairly big things and stuff like that. And you just say, okay, send me, I got a show coming up at the end of the month. Send me 20 copies at print cost and take it to the show. No big inventory that you're carrying. It's like, there's all those kinds of options. But the problem with pure Kickstarter is, unless you have a really big social media thing going on, we're talking 1,000 people getting the book. You know, when I come out through Image Comics with a book, I'll sell tens of thousands of books.
Sure.
You know, so that's it can be a great way to make a living. It can be a great way to get your stuff continuing to come out, and something could, of course, break the arc and become something else out of that, but you're not getting a ton of reader eyeballs.
Yeah, but it's like you said before, I think it's definitely a way to get your passion out there. And, you know, as long as you are getting it done and putting it out there, there is, like you said, there's a way that it can pay off in a greater sense.
Oh, yeah. And
hard work will pay off.
Yeah.
And even without that, you could definitely make a living doing it, you know, without breaking, you know, more than 1,000 followers. You know, you can definitely do that. And, you know, and you control it all, which is great.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing you want to do. I mean, it's your dream. You want to do it. You want to get the passion out, but you got to put the work in. And as long as you're doing that, I always say the work will stand out and the work will draw the people in. It's just a matter of how much passion you want to put into it. And you know, every creator's got their own different journey about that.
Yeah.
So,
but again, this did not exist, 10 years ago.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But now it is absolutely a viable way to make a living as a creator.
Yeah. And, you're seeing such a growth in it too, that, it's a vital part of the market and the business. And, it's something that you're seeing a lot of great stories come from this, and it evolves. And, it's just another way to get the product to the fans and the readers, because everybody's really looking for something different now. So,
yeah.
Well, speaking of something different, obviously the world of ARIA coming back in this format, did it really create the itch that we possibly may see some new stories coming down the road?
Well, like I said, there are going to be 3 new stories in the collection itself.
Okay.
They're all going to be little shorties. They're going to be like 3 pagers essentially, because this will be Jay's first sequential book since Marvel's Eye of the Camera.
Okay.
Which is a long time ago.
Yeah.
And then I did again throw her into my Mark series for a couple issues. Her and the Pug. We're in that. That was my book with the Coven of Witches that have the tattoos are their spell books and stuff.
Yep.
And she had a relationship with one of the witches there. Yeah.
Fair enough.
As you know, I already told you about the one thing that we can't talk about that is in the pipeline.
What one thing?
I don't know what you're talking about. I do know that we are talking about making sure you get to that link, start signing up now, because as you heard, you have early incentives to make sure that you are ready to go, locked and loaded when the Kickstarter goes live, making sure you have that all ready to go, because this you're going to want to get your hands on, especially if you're a collector. It looks amazing. There's a lot of amazing things that you get with it. There's a lot of tons of incentives. And once again, jump on early, because there's even more incentive to jump on early. So this is not just a forewarning. We have to get this done. This is a must. Ken, your thoughts on it?
No, I mean, absolutely. Like I say, this is a series that you really, if you haven't checked out, you really want to dive into, because as a young comic reader back in the day, I remember this, and I remember like how big this was when it came out. And somebody might go like, wait, it's not, Spider-Man, it's not Batman, it's not. No, but this goes to show about the passion behind the indies and really getting a fantasy story that jumps out, and see the passion for it to come back in this format and taking advantage of the modern market and the effect of a Kickstarter. That really stands out. And I think that's why fans are really going to gravitate towards this, because the art is amazing, the story is great, and the incentives for the Kickstarter, like Brian was alluding to, we can't do it justice. Like when you see these, they're going to absolutely blow you away. And we definitely have to have you come back on, Brian, after this comes out, recap of, the reaction when this comes out, because like I say, you have something really special in your hands. Fans are going to want to make sure you get this in your collection. And Brian, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show.
Thank you guys for having me. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. On behalf of Rich and myself, thank you again for checking out another edition of FANLIGHT Zone Presents. We'll see you next time.
It's such waste of time, swiping left and swiping right on people you could know. 'Cause anyone who's worth a damn be worth way more than a picture could ever show. You could find the right light, find the right angle, and never find your soul. And it can feel like a losing battle, and this plot is full of holes. This modern way of finding love just makes me feel so alone. And I can't be the only one sick of staring at my phone. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. fabled. Everyone has just one true love. All I know is you're across this table, and you're all I'm thinking of. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me, we don't have to float alone on the open sea. Talk to me. Talk to me. It's such waste of time, swiping left and swiping right on people you could know.